Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Peter Weiler. I will be your host today for the May 20th, 2025 DVMUG Zoom meeting. We will, as usual, begin with some Apple news from the past week and then move on to videos that are relevant to Apple products. And I hope you are here and enjoy it. At any rate, let's get started.
PDF files for the news and the videos are now in the chat.
Uh, Thank you, John. Yes, there are, well, I have to keep selecting this. Here we go. This is a listing of the news items for today. John has just placed this in the chat, and you'll notice that there are URLs that will take you, links that will take you right to the actual articles that we'll be discussing. So I encourage you to actually download the PDF and go ahead and check out the articles because I'll just be hitting the highlights. Um, and then after this, there will be one more white sheet with videos for the meeting. And again, there are links so you can actually replay any of those videos very easily from that listing. But let's start with the news. And the first item, as you can see, is from Tom's Guide. Apple Pay was down, electronically down, uh, and there were live dates of this outage.
Was that all of Apple Pay or just Apple Card?
Um, I'm not sure about that, Kenji. You might take a look at the article itself
Okay.
and see what it says and let us know. Um, but Apple Pay was part of this for sure, and I use Apple Pay. I imagine many of you do. Very convenient, works very nicely. But for a couple hours, it was not working on May 16th. Um, yeah. So, did anybody have that experience on May 16th of being unable to use Apple Pay? Okay, I'm glad to hear that. If there are any comments or questions, please just chime in.
Yeah, it says that everything was down, all their services.
Ah,
But
okay.
Peter, we have some business that we need to take care of, remember?
Ah, I am so sorry, Don. Yes, our club president has reminded me, my bad, I'm sorry, that we need to do a little bit of business before we continue the meeting. So, Don, are you in a position to take over the screen?
I don't actually need to. You can leave what's there up. I'm
Okay,
just going
it's going to be Jason Snell will be with us, so uh, be sure to come. He's great, very knowledgeable, and we'll we should have a good turnout for that.
so he'll be filling us in on what came up at the Worldwide Developers Conference.
That's right, Kenji.
This month, I emailed Jason thinking, oh, I'll get on his calendar before he books somebody else. So we got the first a week after the WWDC, which he's going in person. And so, yeah, he's done it every year for several years.
Nice.
All right, well, let's go ahead and continue then with the news. The second piece is from the Apple Insider. William Gallagher wrote this particular piece. Evidently, the president is too busy with his tariff negotiations to actually negotiate. So he's going to be dictating um, what's so about it. Um, he's going to determine the terms of of these tariffs. He's also appointed a couple people, as you can see. to help out. Any comments or questions? Okay, moving onward.
8647.
I can think of a few words, but they're not fit for a family meeting like this.
So Apple brings Sunday Night Soccer to Xfinity for free. And if you have Comcast Xfinity and you like soccer, this might be of interest to you. It's one game, but it's free, so the price is right. Um, if you actually would like to see more soccer, you can get a season pass for $99.
I wish that Apple would start a totally separate sports streaming service instead of jacking the price to add all this sports coverage in Apple TV Plus.
It's still $9 a month, right? $9.99.
Yeah,
That's
But
yeah,
that's
for the
$10
moment.
I
bucks.
agree that we could save a lot of money if we didn't have the sports packages. But I think if I'm reading you right, Kenji, you and I are in the minority in that we're not sports fans.
That is true.
$9.99 is 10, not 9.
I like how at the gas pump it's always 0.9 cents.
Peter, you're muted. Okay. Um, John Sobrero yesterday on the BBS posted an item about the Apple Sports app. They are updating to have a daily newsletter. So, for what that's worth, there you are.
I looked at it and I couldn't find where that was in the app. I didn't look all that hard, but it didn't look any different to me.
Mm. Do you get the Apple Sports app, John?
Yeah, I have it on my iPad running when I'm watching the Warriors and the 49ers, and it pops up as soon as they score. It pops up with a notification on your screen.
Mhm.
And it's actually kind of unnerving because the TV is a little behind live. It's a little delayed. So they score and the score on the iPad changes before the score you're watching, you know they scored.
Interesting. Okay. So, evidently, US officials are getting concerned over Apple's artificial intelligence partnership plans with China and actually in China. So, Apple's been negotiating with Alibaba, and there's concern about uh, American AI technology getting sort of off to China, although China is quite busy with developing their own AI. And there's concern that China might uh, oblige Apple to follow Chinese censorship and data sharing policies. So China accounts for 20% of Apple's sales, and that might have something to do about a possible partnership. Any comments? Okay. By the way, that was from the Apple insider, Charles Martin.
What would Alibaba have to do with this? Isn't Alibaba an e-commerce site like Amazon?
Personally, I don't know.
Alibaba, I think, is a Chinese search engine and also a vendor like like Amazon, I think.
Mhm. Thank you, Rick.
That's my recollection, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I have one more news item. Um, so this isn't actually a product. It's a bit of an advertisement. The SwitchBot Wallet Finder. And it evidently is quite useful if you misplace your wallet because you can use the iPhone Find My app to locate it again. Sounds like a good idea. The SwitchBot sort of is the size of a credit card, and it uses Bluetooth technology. So if you're the kind of person who misplaces things, it might
Mhm.
be something to check out.
So there were, um, so when I got my what do you call it, AirTag, my first thought was I got a holders to put it to like a credit card size holder to put it in my wallet, but I realized it's too thick for that. It makes the wallet really thick with a bump. But there were all these DIY plans online for opening an AirTag and to flatten it out so that the battery and the circuitry are lying side by side instead of on top to make it much thinner. But it involves you have to deal with wiring circuit boards. I decided I wasn't ready to take it on, but I'm wondering if this is that, whether they're taking AirTags and they're spreading them out to make them thinner, which would be cool. I wouldn't think that Apple would allow them to use AirTag technology on a
I
third-party
don't think
product.
so because Peter said it's Bluetooth technology, and that means it's limited in range to 30 feet.
Oh,
It's true, although in the article, and this is just a portion of the article, it says even if you're miles away. So I'm not sure how the Bluetooth would,
well,
broad.
that's how AirTags work. Is they is as other Apple devices pass by nearby, it drops a pin where they are. Um, and then the AirTag, the Find My network, then finds the device via other devices. So, like if your AirTag is out in the desert or out in the wilderness somewhere, you it you won't know where it is. It's not GPS. It depends on being near an other Apple device that has GPS. Um, so this could be them modifying AirTags the way those DIY projects are, which would be very cool. Do you have any idea how much it costs?
$90,
$90.
89.99.
Right. But you don't have to get out your soldering iron. So,
No.
yeah. And it's not something that you need a wallet for. I mean, anything that a flat credit card size uh, thing would fit in, it probably would work. So, I think it's an interesting use of the technology.
I wonder what powers it.
It's probably the battery from the AirTag, I would think.
Well, the AirTag has the battery does die on those things over time.
Yeah.
Does this imply this doesn't recharge or anything like that, does it? So
No.
it, it
It probably uses the same lithium battery that an AirTag uses.
Well, it's thicker than a credit card.
That's going to be thinner than a credit
The
card.
CR 2032 is probably about 5/16 of an inch thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a key ring that's made by a company called Key Smart, and it actually has the machinery for an AirTag within it. There's no way you could physically fit an AirTag in it, but it acts just like an AirTag, and it has a USB charger. It'll let you know when it's about out of power, and it takes it about 2 hours to recharge it. And I have to do that about once a month. And it just my iPhone thinks it's another AirTag, but it's not.
Hmm.
And they also, these same people also do sell a device that looks just like a credit card for putting your wallet. The only thing is that it does not use the Apple network. It uses the, what's it called, Tile?
Oh yeah.
It uses the Tile network to track itself.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure one could Google this product, and get some of those questions answered. At any rate, let us move on
Okay.
to the videos of the week. And here is the video list. Again, you can see those links. By the way, these are tiny URL links. You'll notice they're relatively short and they're all the same length. And all that they do is they send you to the actual link. It works very directly and it's very fast, just like a regular link would be. And I found them very useful,
Do
especially.
you convert them yourself?
Yes, you go to tinyurl.com and it's a free service. You can take any website or that you want, any web address, and create a tiny URL that'll be the length of you see of these things, and that can be what you give out to whoever you would want to have it. Anyway, again, these are on the BBS and also in the chat if you would like to download and be able to use these links to get to any of these videos. But let's go
It's
ahead.
not in the chat room.
Yes, it is. It's
The
a,
news is, but not the video list.
yeah, they're both there. They're different ones.
Yeah, they can sort of get
I
right
mean, after the
to each
meeting
other.
started, then they're not, you won't see those. I'll put them in there again. The links to the PDF, I'll put them in again.
Okay. In the meantime, let's move on to the first video. And this is about Apple Intelligence. And it's an Apple video. Have any of you actually gotten into the Apple Intelligence kinds of features?
I have a little bit, and they make it look nice and easy. There's a couple of things that happen if you want to add a name to the list of photos. It doesn't happen like that. I've tried and tried to put one photo of a person that I wanted to make a Genmoji or Apple the picture thing, and I can't figure out how to get that photograph into the list of people, even though it's identified and is in my people area. One thing I have heard that this does is that if you're in a strange place and you see a restaurant, for instance, you can use artificial intelligence and supposedly it'll bring up, if the restaurant is got the information, it'll bring up a menu and tell you what the restaurant specializes in. I haven't tried that yet, but that's what I'm told.
Thank you, Rick.
You know, this is Joyce. I took the class on photography with Mike Matthews, and he did the eraser with the photo on the in the class, and I thought, wow. So I came home, and you know what? I was able to do that myself, which is remarkable based on my level of knowledge and skills. And so I highly suggest, recommended, and applaud that whole project. It's incredible.
Interesting. Okay, well, let us move on to the next video. 10 simple ways to improve a photo in the Mac Photos app. And this is one of Gary's photos. It's just under 10 minutes long, but Gary does such a great job, and I promise we won't do anything over 10 minutes here.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you some quick and simple ways that you can improve your photos in the Mac Photos app. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There, you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Once you have a photo in the Photos app on your Mac, there are a ton of different ways that you could alter the image, but you don't have to adjust a whole bunch of different things just to improve your photos. In fact, a lot could be done with just a single click. So let's start off with the obvious one. You can use the button here, which is called Auto Enhance. If you click that, it's going to try to apply a bunch of different changes as best it can to try to make the photo look better. So I'm going to try it here, and you can see it brightens the photo up, adds a lot more contrast. It definitely looks better than it did before. I'm going to use Command Z or Edit Undo to undo, and you can see that's what it looked like before. And then I'm going to click the button again, and you can see the changes. Now, just like with everything else I'm going to show you here, just because the button is supposed to make the photo look better doesn't mean it actually looks better to you. So with every one of these, it's important to try it, decide whether you like the original or you like the new one with the changes. You can always undo the change. As a matter of fact, if you go into Edit, there's a Revert to Original button. So all the changes you make are non-destructive. Now, most of the tools you need to use are deeper than just this one button here. You need to click the Edit button to go to all the editing tools. Then you've got three sets of tools: Adjust, Filters, and Crop. So the first one I want to show you here is under Crop. It's not actually cropping the photo, but straightening it, or you may think of it as rotating it. Straighten is the same thing as rotate. If I move that line to the right or to the left, you can see how it rotates it. It also gives me those grid lines there. So I can easily try to straighten a photo, say to match the horizon or the floor or ceiling in a room. In this case, I've got the water. If I set it to the original, you could see that it's not level. That's because I'm sitting in a kayak when I took this. But with a little bit of adjustment, using those lines there, I can get it more or less even so that the water and the line below it are basically at the same level. So now I've straightened the photo. It was a quick and simple change, and now I think the photo looks a lot better. But of course, you can also use the crop tool. And obviously, you want to crop things out of the image that you don't want. But even an image like this can benefit from some cropping. So I'll go to Edit and then Crop here. And the way to crop is to grab any of these corners to crop out some of the edges. Now, notice when I do that, I get this grid. It's basically giving me a chance to use the rule of thirds. The idea here is in this grid, I want to try to put objects of interest at the intersections of those lines. So for instance, right here might be a decent place to put this. But let's try this one. And I already don't like that because the bird's facing now away from the center of the photo. But if I use this one and then I wait for it to expand like it did there, I could always go back and grab these edges and drag them back out. I do like this one because it kind of balances things out. It puts the bird there at one of those intersections, and it has lots of other interesting things in the photo. It's nicely framed. So I think this is an improvement over the original photo. But again, like with all the rest of this, if you don't think it's an improvement, simply don't use it. These are all things to try. Just because they're there doesn't mean they're always going to make the photo look better. Now, another section under Edit is Filters. And filters are great for setting a mood. So you've got a photo like this, and here's the original. I could use Vivid or Vivid Warm, Vivid Cool, Dramatic, Dramatic Warm, or Dramatic Cool. The rest of these are black and white ones and probably not ideal for this particular photo. But each of these kind of conveys a slightly different mood. Sometimes if you've got a good photo, but you want to make it even better, you may want to try one of these and note that you can actually adjust how much the effect is applied. See this little meter here? You can drag it in. So you can have it be dramatic warm, but only half the effect instead of all the effect. Now let's start talking about adjusting brightness and colors. If I go to Edit here, and then I stick with the adjustment tools, there are a ton of different tools here. And each of these expand and then expands even more. So it can get kind of overwhelming. But you can easily use some of these auto buttons to do things. So white balance is one of the things where you can just click auto. And what white balance tries to do is to make the photo look more realistic. And just clicking the auto, it's worth doing, especially in a photo like this, where the colors look a little bit too vivid. maybe things are a bit off. If I click auto here, it does an adjustment. And now for this photo, it kind of looks more real to me. So if you try this and you think it's good, you keep it. If not, you can use the undo button here. Click that and go back to the original. Now, when you go to edit in a photo, the first section here is light. And you can click the auto button there and it will auto adjust the light. Notice you've got this button here at the upper left-hand corner. If you click and hold that, it will show you the original, and then you release and it shows you the new version. So you could really quickly switch between these to see which one you like better. Now, in addition to auto here, there's also under light and under options, brilliance. And I find that moving brilliance up sometimes can really make a photo look a lot better. Now, maybe if this is a vacation photo of you and your family, this isn't what you're going for. But if you're trying to post this online and grab people's attentions, either in an Instagram post or as a YouTube thumbnail or something like that, then moving brilliance up can be a quick and simple way to achieve that. Now, shadows are always a problem when taking photos. The sun's not always shining in the right direction. However, you can lessen that effect if you go into light, and under options, you've got highlights and shadows. These are kind of opposites. So with shadows, I can make the shaded parts brighter. So watch what happens when I adjust that up. You could see this area here that's got the shadow gets brighter. Just going to 0.5 up and then taking the highlights, the lightest parts of the photo, and bringing that down 0.5, and then bringing brightness up 0.5 to kind of compensate for the fact you brought down the highlights. Of course, the shadow is still there, but the effect is less. Let's go and toggle this back and forth, and you can see how dark that shadow looks here compared to now. So the shadow is still there, but I saved the photo a bit by bringing some of the light out of the shadowy areas more. You can see a lot more detail in my face in the shadow areas with these settings. Now let's talk about adjusting color. The reason I took this photo in the first place was because I thought the leaves look very bright green against the white background, but the photo really doesn't show that. However, I can make it look more like I remember by adjusting color. So I'm going to go into the color settings here, and I can go into options, but instead of that, I'm just going to use this big adjustment here that will adjust all of the color and move it to the right. Now, if I move it all the way to the right, it's going to make the colors ridiculous. You can see how it's even bringing out some yellows on the wall. But if I move it just a bit to the right, I can get that green to pop out. It even did a good job adding some color here to the trunk of the tree, as you could see when you compare. You could go into options if you really want and adjust the saturation even more. Now let's talk about retouching photos. A lot of times you do this on people to get rid of blemishes on their skin, but it could work in other situations as well. For instance, here's a picture of an interesting looking door, and it looks great, except that right here is this kind of modern looking label. It'd be nice to get rid of that, and you can do that using the retouch tool here. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to click on this button, the little paintbrush. Now I've got this circle that I could use. Notice I could adjust the size of the circle. I want it to be just a little bit bigger than what it is I'm correcting. So I'm going to drag down with this and cover that area and then release. And it's going to try to get rid of what was there and replace it with a similar texture. Now you can see how nice of a job it did getting rid of that blemish on this old door. And finally, let's talk about a tool that I don't use much, but some people like, and it's Vignette. It's the last tool here under adjustments. So you can open this up and you can use the auto button here to start, and it's going to set these to something. And what it does is it darkens the corners, basically creates a circle around the photo. And a lot of people like it because it creates a more dramatic look. You can adjust the strength here so I can see more obviously that it's there, the radius, the softness. If you think it makes your photo better, you can keep it, but Vignette is not for everyone.
Oh, I apologize about that. That actually was the last piece that Gary was going to be talking about. So we missed maybe half a minute. Are there any comments?
Pretty powerful.
Yeah, I use Photoshop myself, but I'm very impressed with what Apple Photos is able to do there. It's becoming very sophisticated. Anyone else? Okay, the next video is by someone I hadn't heard or seen before. Her name is Sam, and she's talking about your iPad's USB-C port and that it can do more than you think. So let's have a look.
So if you've got an iPad with a USB-C port, there's a good chance you're mostly just using it for charging, but there's actually so much more you can do with it. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 practical real-world ways I use my USB-C port on my iPad. These little things can make a big difference whether you're working, creating, or just trying to get the most out of your devices. First up, external storage. If you've ever ran out of space on your iPad or just wanted an easier way to move files around, this is such a handy option. I use this when I need to back up photos, transfer videos, or just clean things up a bit. All you need is an external drive like a portable SSD or even a basic USB stick. If your external drive or USB stick uses an older USB-A connection, you can grab a simple USB-A to USB-C adapter like this one. So it plugs straight into the USB-C port on your iPad. Once it's connected, it'll show up instantly in the Files app. From there, locate your hard drive inside the menu under Locations. Then you can select the files you want to move over to your iPad. You can copy photos or transfer large videos off of your iPad to free up space. It's especially helpful if you don't want everything sitting in the iCloud or just need to clear up some space on your iPad. So if your iPad's starting to feel a bit full, this is one of the easiest ways to tidy things up and keep everything running smoothly. If you take photos or videos on a camera, this is such a handy little trick. You can plug a SD card straight into your iPad and quickly transfer everything. No laptop needed. I'm using a USB-C hub that has a built-in SD card and micro SD card slot. Just pop your card in and plug the hub into your iPad, and then open up the Files app. You'll see your SD card under Locations in the side menu. From there, you can preview, select, and transfer exactly what you want over to your iPad. It's great for reviewing bigger shots on a screen or backing them up while you're traveling. It's such an easy way to deal with your camera files when you're out and about, especially if you want to check your shots properly or get things sorted before you're back at your desk. If you film videos or take photos on a camera and want a bigger screen to preview your shots, this is a cool little setup you can try. For this, I use my Sony a6400 and connect it to my iPad using a micro HDMI to HDMI cable, which runs into a capture card. Since the capture card has a USB-A connection, I use a USB-A to USB-C adapter to plug into the iPad. Then I open an app called Monitor Plus. I just use the free version, which lets me view my camera feed live on the iPad screen. It's so handy when filming because you can actually see everything in focus and that it's framed correctly. If you end up getting the paid version, you can even control your camera directly from the iPad, which could be super useful depending on your setup. So if you're creating content and want a simple external monitor setup for your camera, this is definitely worth a try. All right, for this next one, if you've ever wanted to turn your iPad into a proper desk setup, this is where the USB-C hub comes in. You can connect everything you need to make your iPad feel like a full workstation. Here's what you'll need: a USB-C hub with multiple ports, including HDMI for an external monitor, a USB-A for a keyboard and mouse, unless you're going to be using Bluetooth accessories, and ideally a USB-C port with the power symbol on it, so while everything is connected, your iPad can stay powered through the same hub. Once everything is set up, you now have a desktop-like experience, working off a bigger monitor and using a keyboard and mouse. It really helps boost your productivity and makes the iPad feel much more capable. This setup is great if you need to get some serious work done on your iPad. If you've ever been stuck with a weak Wi-Fi connection on your iPad, this can be really helpful. You can actually plug in an Ethernet adapter for fast and reliable wired connection. All you need is a USB-C to Ethernet adapter or a hub that has a built-in Ethernet port. Just plug it into your iPad and connect the Ethernet cable, and that's it. You're online with a solid wired connection. This is especially handy if you're uploading large files, streaming, or just want a more stable connection for video calls or remote work. It's not something you'll use every day, but when you need it, it's super helpful. And it's one of those things that most people don't realize their iPad can do. So that's how I've been using the USB-C port on my iPad. Just simple, practical stuff that really makes a difference. Let me know in the comments if you're going to try any of these or if you've got another clever use I should check out. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more iPad tips and tech videos like this one. I'll link any of the products I used in the description in case you want to check them out. And if you like my iPad wallpaper, I'll leave that link below too. Thanks for watching.
Any comments?
Yes,
She's an Australian, right?
Yeah, I had a little trouble understanding her, but got used to her way of talking pretty fast.
Peter, did you notice what the brand of the hub was?
No, I didn't. Did you, Bruce?
No, I didn't. I'm trying to figure out there's
Yeah,
something I'm
you might
probably
find
in
it
need
on
of.
Amazon if you
I've
look.
been using a Sateki hub for the last 2 or 3 years.
On an
Not
iPad with
cheap.
a USB-C port.
Oh, it really has no bearing on if it's a C or an A or
No, no,
whatever,
no,
as
no.
long as you get a hub.
But I was asking Rick if where he was using his hub was on an iPad.
I tried it once. Works fine.
Looking for someone who uses it in a more day-to-day function
Yeah, no,
than
I've
just a
never
little
found a need.
trial.
Never found a need to tell you the truth.
I bought the base model of the iPad 9, which is 64 gigs, and most of my space is taken up with magazine subscriptions, downloaded magazines. And so I was really interested in that. I never thought of trying to offload them onto an external drive because that would free up a lot of space.
I actually purchased you miniature card reader and used it on an iPad to offload stuff.
And it worked well?
It worked just fine. It kind of refused the connection at first, but I tried a couple of times and it connected correctly.
Does anybody
It wasn't an Apple one. It's paid next to nothing for it on the web.
If you connected an external SSD, how would you want it formatted? Anybody know?
It can read a couple of different formats. I've used it and it works okay. The interface Apple has at this point with the Files app is really clunky. The Finder is more elegant,
Absolutely.
but trying to transfer files with precision is really awkward.
I've noticed that if I format things, Windows, some kind of 32-bit or whatever, usually that has a broader range of acceptability, since many of the people out there don't use Apple. Okay.
Oh, I see online it says that it can read APFS, HFS plus, FAT32 or exFAT, but the iPad can't actually format an external drive. It'd have to be formatted already.
Right.
Right.
HFS plus.
I format volumes that I take between different platforms. I format those for exFAT. It's more universal, easier to carry around, and preserves most of the file information I need.
Would preserve long file names?
Yep.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the next video. This one's a shorty. It's a magnifier on Mac, and it's done by Apple. If you have perhaps a bit of visual impairment, um, or you just are in a situation where you can't get closer to an object, but you need to be able to see it better, this might be helpful.
The sound was messed up on that because you didn't check share audio when you started the screen share, Peter. For most of them, it sounded okay anyway, but this one had more background sound, and the background sounds don't come through properly.
Yeah, Kenji, I thought that I actually had done that. I'm not sure if I have to drop out of share in order to check it.
Yeah, you gotta stop share and reshare and check to make sure it's checked.
Well, okay.
I thought it was just a bad soundtrack.
I think that might be what's going on here, but
Your
Because
voice
I
doesn't
think they were
sound bad.
emphasizing the magnifier and wanted you to focus on the picture rather than the audio.
Is the magnifier an app?
Evidently it is. I haven't
I've never seen or heard of it.
come across it, but she was using her iPhone to pull in
Yeah,
the image.
it's on the iPhone.
No, she was using a Mac. She was looking at it on a Mac, but she had her iPhone connected to use as a camera, I guess.
Right, the
And it
iPhone
was
was
showing up on the Mac.
pulling in the picture, so the magnifier
And
probably
she had
on
a
the Mac.
magnifier app in the dock.
Mm-hmm.
What was holding the camera? What was holding the phone to the Mac? Oh, somebody's at my door.
Some kind of bracket thing.
Yeah, there must be off third-party providers that have lots of those.
Is anybody, I'm not on, is anybody looking Sequoia in the apps folder and see if there's a magnifier app?
Yeah.
I can look. You might have to have a phone hooked up to use it, or it should, if it's an app, it should be there, even if the phone isn't connected.
Fine, thank you. And talk to
Look and see here. Oh. Apps.
Well,
Don't have it.
magnifier on Mac.
I'm a Sequoia, I don't see it.
Okay, let me read
Is it
a little
in
something I wrote.
capture?
The magnifier on Mac makes the physical world more accessible for anyone with low vision. If you're in a setting like a classroom, magnifier connects to your iPhone camera so that you can zoom in on a screen or whiteboard. You can also adjust brightness, contrast, color filters, and even perspective to make text and images easier to see. With
So
magnifier
maybe-
on Mac, well, it doesn't really say where the magnifier
It's
is.
in a default app.
A default app?
Yeah, I went to
Maybe-
apps at the bottom of settings. I went on my phone, I went to settings and the bottom there's apps. And
Yes,
it's
there's
in
a
the
magnifier
default.
on the phone, but there's not a magnifier on the Mac, and that's what they were showing how to use it. Maybe when you connect the iPhone to the Mac, then you use the magnifier app on the iPhone and makes it show up on the dock on your Mac. That's what they were showing. It was on her dock.
Well, I will look into that during the next video. I can go to a different computer and check out about where it's available.
I just went to system settings and accessibility and typed in a search for magnifier on my iMac running the latest Sequoia, and it says nothing found.
Huh. Interesting.
But that's an iMac. That's not the MacBook Air or MacBook Pro.
Yeah, she was using a MacBook. They should have explained how that works. Go here, open this, do that.
It's
Other
true. Evan, it wasn't in the notes to that particular video, so
Well, we couldn't hear the soundtrack, so we don't know what they had in the video.
are others having trouble hearing the soundtrack?
On that one, I did.
Yes.
I didn't hear it
Just
well at
in
all.
that one.
Wasn't she just using a video? And through the video program, she was adjusting the picture? That was what's being demonstrated in that video. She was using the Mac, the video mode.
You might be right, Sylvia.
I think that's right. I could hear okay. It was just garbled.
Yeah. I just did a search with Google, and it says on a Mac, the magnifier is part of the accessibility feature called Zoom. You can access it by going to System Settings, Accessibility, and Zoom. Once there, you can enable keyboard shortcuts or scroll gestures to activate the Zoom. So it's part of.
Bill put some information in the chat.
Yeah, that's from.
I don't think that's it. It's called Closefoo. She called it Magnifier, and it appeared on her dock as an app called Magnifier.
Well, maybe after we finish the videos, we could go back and watch that video again.
Yeah.
Okay.
With share sound turned on.
Actually, what I see here, they talk about using continuity camera, USB camera, magnify what's on your Mac screen.
No, that's not what this is, though.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's
what she was doing.
That's exactly what she was doing. Yeah.
She was holding down the Apple key and doing plus and minus.
Okay.
Okay. I do it all the time.
She was using the phone camera to zoom in on the whiteboards.
Because she was doing continuity.
And she was using the Mac keyboard to zoom in and out with the Apple key and the plus and minus.
Okay.
That's how she did it.
Here we go.
Well, I don't
This
understand.
is all very confusing.
How did the iPhone connect with the Mac?
Through continuity.
Okay.
That video is more confusing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Google Search AI says, yes, you can use accessibility, but additionally, Apple has released a new magnifier app for the Mac that uses the iPhone's camera. That's what she was doing.
Yeah.
There is supposedly a magnifier. Maybe you have to go download it from the App Store.
Right. Evidently, it's a recent release.
Ah, yes, it's listed here. It's in the App Store. It's called Magnifier. You have to download it.
Okay.
Doesn't come built in.
Okay.
It's nice
would it be okay if I stop the share to check on
yeah, go ahead.
Connecting the audio and then share again?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, just to check that out. And let's see. Zoom. Damn.
Yeah, because that looked like an app.
So.
And the bracket is, you can find on Amazon. It's a MagSafe. It mounts the camera with MagSafe. I'm not sure how it attaches to the MacBook though. Probably it.
Well, the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro I believe they have magnets in that area for the pencil.
Oh, okay.
And I think.
Okay. At any rate, I definitely have the volume connected here, so let's see if it improves on the next video.
Can we see that one again if you think you have it connected now?
Yes, it's definitely connected, so let's see if things improve.
Play it again.
Oh, the same video? Okay.
Yeah, try it.
Okay. We'll do that. Oh, come on now.
Well, you can do. That's why they didn't speak anything about what to do.
Yeah. But I did see how they did the phone though. There was a little flip up she had attached to her the back of the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that audio was mostly
Music.
young music, very noisy kind of music. Did it seem a better quality out
Oh,
there?
absolutely. We could hear it.
Yes.
We couldn't hear the music at all. You could hear was sort of
Shoot. Okay.
Yeah, fixed.
I will
See,
make
what's happening, Peter, is if you don't check that,
Yeah.
you're hearing the sound coming out of your Mac normally, but
Right,
what we
right. I
hear is
understand.
your microphone picking up from your speaker, which
Yeah.
works okay on when somebody like the regular, presenter is talking, but when there's other sound, it doesn't carry properly.
No, you're right, Kenji, and I apologize. I will make a big note of this, not to start a meeting without being sure that's checked in the future.
And the way we can tell right away, even when the sound is good, is if you look at you in the participants list, you can see the microphone pulsing while the video is playing. Whereas if you've checked share sound, the microphone is not doing that when the video is playing because the sound is going directly through the system, not through your mic.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you. Kenji, you're officially in charge of keeping people on task with that. Okay, the next video is with Anson Alexander and why Apple doesn't support Mac and how to rebel. So have a look at this. A little bit of rebellion here.
This is my 10-year-old MacBook Pro, officially unsupported by Apple for any OS after Big Sur, yet it's been flawlessly running Sonoma for the last 6 months. How is this possible, and why doesn't Apple support it? The reasons may surprise you. When I worked at an Apple store, our main focus was creating brand loyalty by providing a smooth, seamless customer experience, both in the store and on the devices. In Apple's eyes, it was better to have someone buy a new computer and have an awesome experience than have them save some cash and potentially deal with apps crashing, low battery life, and of course, the spinning wheel of death. Recent lawsuits, however, point to additional motivation for this strategy: planned obsolescence, when a company purposely designs a product that will become obsolete or stop working in the near future, forcing the customer to make another purchase. Printer companies like HP, Epson, and Canon have all faced lawsuits regarding forced obsolescence over ink cartridges that stop working prematurely. I think we all deserve a payout from those ones. In 2020, Apple paid over $500 million in fines in what is commonly referred to as Batterygate, where in 2016 they were caught throttling the performance of iPhone 6s and 7s, claiming it was to extend battery life, but essentially forcing users to upgrade to new iPhones. If they were using this strategy in 2016 to force the retirement of phones produced only 2 years earlier, it begs the question, have they used this same strategy for their computers? It's certainly not hurting their bottom line. According to Apple's Q4 2023 earnings report, revenue for new Macs surged by nearly 30% in the years 2021 and 2022. This is largely due to the release of Apple's M-series chips, but it underscores the financial benefits of encouraging customers to upgrade more frequently. It raises questions regarding the balance between maximizing profits and supporting customer loyalty. If it's truly all about a smooth user experience, wouldn't they want to support their loyal customers whose machines are still mechanically functional and technically relevant? But instead of releasing different OS builds for older hardware setups, Apple restricts older Macs from upgrading to newer OS versions altogether, even when it's technically possible. The last supported OS for this 2013 MacBook Pro is Big Sur, which hasn't received a software update in over 6 months. It likely won't ever again. Even with regular security updates, users of older Macs miss out on new features. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. You see, Apple has also been rapidly dropping support for its operating systems. Apple's own documentation states that only the latest operating system release is considered fully patched, meaning that only the latest OS is truly safe from all known security vulnerabilities. Think about this for a second. They're stopping older Macs from upgrading to new OS versions, and then they're dropping support for their older OSs. Before the end of the year, only a couple Mac models made before 2016 will be able to update to an operating system that is actually patched and supported by Apple. Meaning if your Mac was made in 2016 or earlier, you'll run the risk of having unpatched security vulnerabilities unless you perform an unsupported installation. Look, I get it, things go out of date, but let's not forget, we're talking about the most expensive personal computers on the planet. Personal computers from a brand built around durability, compatibility, and user experience. Dropping software support for these older Macs just doesn't live up to the brand promise. With each new macOS release, Apple's message is clear: upgrade or be left behind. But what they don't tell you is that many older Macs are still perfectly capable of running the latest software, or at least some version of it. And that is where the hero of this story emerges: unsupported macOS installations. A rebellious, community-driven movement empowering users to break free from Apple's restrictions, yet still reap the benefits of these amazing machines. It was born out of the early 2000s Macintosh movement, where users used custom-coded applications called bootloaders to install macOS on non-Apple hardware. Right. Widespread unsupported macOS installations on actual Macs began on February 14, 2006, when a programmer named CRG92 released a hacked version of macOS 10.4 Tiger. By 2009, hackers began using custom-coded bootloaders like Chameleon and later on Clover to successfully install unsupported versions of macOS 10 on older iMacs and MacBooks. The process was difficult and hard to maintain, however, so the movement didn't gain much steam until the early 2020s. In 2018, a Hackintosh bootloader known as OpenCore emerged onto the scene and quickly replaced Clover as the preferred Hackintosh bootloader. With Apple continuously ending support for older Macs, a community of developers known as Dortania expanded OpenCore and in 2021 released OpenCore Legacy Patcher, also known as OCLP, a simple and effective way to install macOS on unsupported devices. The key is that OCLP is open source and provides an easy way to patch and update unsupported installations whenever Apple releases official updates. OCLP gives users the freedom to choose how long they want to keep their Macs running, an edge in the fight against forced obsolescence. As of today, it is still the easiest way to install an unsupported version of macOS. The benefits of unsupported macOS can be quite attractive. Access to the latest features, improved security, potentially improved performance, and, quite honestly, a sense of empowerment. Unsupported macOS installations aren't all sunshine and roses, however. There are risks involved. They don't receive security updates directly from Apple, leaving them exposed to malware and other threats until a new macOS build for OCLP is released, although this usually only takes a couple of days. As many of you have seen on my channel, incremental updates can take longer and frustrating errors can arise. There may be compatibility issues. Not all apps and software may work on unsupported macOS versions. Depending on the Mac model you're using, performance can be hindered on unsupported Macs, leaving for a less than optimal experience. And of course, if something goes wrong, you're on your own. Apple won't provide technical assistance or repairs for issues related to unsupported installations. Although if you came into the Apple store that I worked at with an unsupported installation, we would certainly wipe it clean and install the latest supported OS if that's what you were looking for. It's probably not the best option for your primary computer, but it can certainly breathe new life into older, functionally sound machines. Personally, I wouldn't use my MacBook Pro very much if I couldn't update it past Big Sur. Big Sur doesn't allow for screen mirroring, which is one of the primary things that I use this laptop for. Without an unsupported installation, this old friend would just be collecting dust in the corner. There are valid technical reasons behind Apple's decision to drop support for older macOS versions as well. For example, the shift to 64-bit architecture meant older 32-bit Macs couldn't handle the more efficient processing and greater memory usage, meaning Apple had to release both 32-bit and 64-bit versions of its software. In 2014, Apple introduced Metal graphics to boost performance, but older Macs didn't have the necessary GPU capabilities, meaning Apple would have to support both GPU setups. The T2 security chip added in 2017 brought advanced security features that older Macs lacked, making it hard to integrate these new protections into older hardware. The M-series chips, launched in 2020, offered significant improvements in performance and energy efficiency, but their new ARM-based design was incompatible with older Intel-based Macs. Despite these advancements making it difficult for Apple to maintain compatibility with older Macs, they have done it numerous times over the years, proving that it can be done. As a company that prides itself on its hardware and software integration, many feel that Apple should still offer security updates for older hardware that's restricted from upgrading to newer OS versions. Their terms and conditions only promise support for 7 years. Then you're on your own. Thankfully, the online community has been able to pick up the slack where Apple left off. My video on installing unsupported macOS has received hundreds of comments from users who are extremely happy with their unsupported installations. Many of their computers would have already been retired were it not for OpenCore Legacy Patcher and similar open source projects. To be fair, there are also dozens of comments from users who have experienced challenges when upgrading. Maybe they missed a step like performing post-install patches, or maybe there are hardware failures lurking under the hood. Who knows? It certainly isn't for the faint of heart and is definitely more feasible for those who are already skilled with technology. Whether or not you decide to perform an unsupported installation is up to you, but the story of how Hackintosh methods came to save the day for some of Apple's most loyal customers in the wake of abandonment will not soon be forgotten or dismissed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've thought about performing an unsupported installation but haven't taken the leap yet, this playlist should have you covered. That's all I've got for today. I'm Anson Alexander, and I'll see you in the next one.
Well, so I don't know if there are many of members of the group that are using older Macs that.
I know 3 of us in here have it running.
Okay.
Me,
Yeah.
Peter, and Kenji.
Yeah, this is
sometimes it's challenging. Peter's was particularly challenging, but in the end it worked.
Right. With some excellent help from Mr. Sobrero. Yeah.
Are those in Peter's video, or is it me? I mean, his sound.
What's that?
Oh, I didn't hear your sound for a bit.
Oh, okay.
We could hear you fine.
Any questions about this one?
Well, I want to comment on it. So this guy, Anton Alexander, has tutorials that are shorter, that are about the length of this video, like 8 minutes long, where he walks you through the process, and it's pretty clear. It's pretty straightforward. It's not like trying to the old sideload Hackintosh stuff.
No.
I thought this video was really interesting because the way he kind of brought the whole the whole backstory up to this thing, which I didn't really put together. So if you want to try this on an older machine, like I have this 2015 MacBook Air that couldn't go past Monterey, so it's still supported, but it's about to not be supported anymore. And of course, the first thing you want to do is have a good backup of it. And then you run it to install this, and now it's running Sequoia, and it's running Sequoia great. I mean, it's not as fast as an M1 as an M Mac would be, of course, but it's running it fine, and all the software doesn't know the difference, and it's going good. And if worse came to worse, and you would decide you didn't like it or you would screw it up, you could always just wipe the computer and go back to your backup and put what was there, reinstall the older. And I did that. I hadn't messed it up, but I got confused, and I guess I did it. Then I wanted to decide I wanted to go back to Monterey. I just did a regular install in Monterey, and then went back to Sequoia again.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like John is having trouble with his earbuds.
Losing the headphones, but my Mac break ran all the way to up to 230 because we were delayed, so the batteries were running out. No, I wouldn't, like you said, I don't recommend it for your main machine, but if you've got an older machine and you're not using it anymore and it can't run, especially if it's too old to run a current browser, I'm running on a bunch of machines just because I don't want to throw them away. They work, and I haven't even have it running on a Core 2 Duo, and I wouldn't recommend that. It's a little slow. But i5s, yeah, pretty much you got to have an SSD, and I pretty much have to have an SSD in anything anyway anymore. But it's amazing. They keep up with the updates. Like Sequoia had an update like a week or so ago, and within days they had a new patch, and it ran it and patched it and worked, and they're really on it. I think a lot of the people that are supporting it, using it, keeping older machines. And it just shows you Apple could support them and use these older machines, and they could do it if they wanted. It's technically possible. The only thing it upgrades basically are the video drivers and the Wi-Fi. And if you don't have the patches installed, the video's wonky and it's real slow, but as soon as you come up and says, do you want a patch? And it works. Kenji got in a situation where he didn't patch it and the Wi-Fi didn't work, but you could have jacked in with Ethernet if you had it, but he didn't. So that's the two things they have to rewrite. Basically, everything else just works. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a hacker to do it. It makes upgrades and installations a little more complicated, but you don't have to be a hacker.
No, it's just a bunch more steps. It's not as straightforward. You got to say yes and okay and blah blah blah. And once you do it and it's installed, it's the same process every time. You got to follow the directions, and it works.
But unlike what would happen with the with iOS hackers, that with side loading and all that, Apple has has always battled that. They don't, they like with every upgrade, they're trying to lock those people out. But with the Mac, it's not that way.
No, they don't seem to care. It just works.
Yeah.
If they allow you in the software, you get to choose when you launch it, what OS do you want to install on this machine? Sequoia, Sonoma, Ventura, whatever you want. You get to pick and choose the one you want. It downloads it and builds it and installs it, and then later it upgrades it. And it's using all the Apple-based software, and it's just installing different drivers to make it work on specific to each piece of hardware. When you install a piece of hardware, it looks at your machine, what video card you have, gets the drivers for that. So it's very specific to your hardware to make it work correctly. But
if the 30-bit, 64-bit question, app question was already discussed while I was out, I apologize, but I'm wondering if you make this adaptation, if you can still run 32-bit apps on the machine after it's been changed.
No, it does not allow. No, it does not solve the 32-bit issue. So if you're running Mojave and 32-bit apps and you want them to run in the next version, just no, it doesn't fix that problem.
But you could set it up as a dual boot in a second partition.
Most always, that's what I do. I install whatever the highest is that runs on that machine native and have it there, so you can just boot, hold the option key, and switch into the supported native version if you want to run your 32-bit apps. Mojave on your 32 bits and whatever you want going forward, all the way up to Sequoia on the other partition. Or I have some of them with multiple parts. You put a 1 terabyte SSD. I have one machine that has every version from Mojave to Sequoia. You can choose what you want.
Okay, well,
all right.
We're running a little bit late. I have 2 more videos. I think I'd like to play the short one and then leave off the last one so we can get to question and answers. But there's this last one is on using the Apple Wallet and how to deal with tickets, buying them, using them, sharing them, that kind of thing. And it takes a little over 2 minutes. So let's go for it.
When you add tickets and passes to Apple Wallet, you can use them with your iPhone at eligible locations, as well as share supported tickets and passes with others. We'll show you how to add a ticket or pass to the Wallet app on your iPhone, how to use it, and how to share a supported ticket or pass with another iPhone user. We'll start with adding a ticket or pass to Apple Wallet. In the app, email, notification, or other communication that contains your ticket or pass, find the Add to Apple Wallet button and tap it. The ticket or pass will appear in the Wallet app. Just tap Add in the upper right corner to confirm. When you add a pass or ticket to the Wallet app on your iPhone, you automatically add it to the Wallet app on your paired Apple Watch. Now, we'll show you how to use a ticket or pass in the Wallet app. If you receive a notification that your pass is ready to use, you can just tap it. Otherwise, to open the Wallet app, double-click the side button on an iPhone with Face ID, or double-click the home button on an iPhone with Touch ID, and authenticate when prompted. Tap the stack at the bottom of the screen to expand it, and tap the ticket or pass you want to use. Then, scan or tap your iPhone at the contactless reader, or present it to the attendant. You might need to swipe left if you have multiple tickets or passes. You can also transfer or share tickets and passes from supported ticket issuers or companies with other iPhone users. In the Wallet app, tap a ticket or pass. If the ticket issuer or company has enabled transferring, you can tap the More button and follow the steps to transfer it. If the ticket issuer or company has enabled sharing a ticket or pass, you can tap the Share button and follow the steps to share it. And that's it. Now you know how to add, use, transfer, and share a ticket or pass in the Wallet app on your iPhone.
Okay, any questions or comments?
I used some tickets the other day at Walnut Creek at the Lesher Theater, and it worked beautifully. We had 2 tickets, and I just slid to the left, and there it was.
Excellent.
But here's something that some of you may need to know. If you use a Clipper card on your phone and you get a new phone, when you go to use the Clipper card on the new phone, it'll say this card cannot be used. And it says remove and reinstall. Well, I didn't have the hard copy of my Clipper card, but when I called the Clipper people, they said, "Oh, do you have a watch?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Oh, great, just reinstall it from your watch." And the phone then asked if I wanted to reinstall it from the watch, and it allowed me to do that. And then it fixed it. So when you get a new watch, a new phone, you may end up having to reinstall a Clipper card. The moral of the story is keep the Clipper card, don't throw it away.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, good information. Okay.
Yeah, when I got a new phone, one of my credit cards and wallet, most of them were fine. It just got migrated and they still worked. But one of them didn't work. It wouldn't accept. It was set up so it didn't. It recognized it and moved to different hardware, and it was invalid. And I had to delete it and reinstall it.
Yeah, it's curious why that happens, but it does.
You can see it's a security feature.
Yeah.
A near perfect.
Okay, so let's move over to questions and answers. I'm going to stop the share.
Okay, so that's the end. So, got any more questions about any of the presentation? Or otherwise, we'll stop the recording.
Yeah, I've got one thing, which is that I went on Amazon and I bought one of those wallet finder cards. It was 16 and change, including tax. And apparently it has a battery. It says lasts up to 3 years, and the card is not the battery is not replaceable, because it says you'll get a low battery warning when it's time to replace the card. But at $16, that's cool.
Right.
Okay.
So it'll arrive tomorrow. I'll let you know next week how it is. It says it's 2.5 millimeters thick, which is really thin. That's about the just over the thickness of the AirTag battery itself. So probably they use some other that kind of battery. It also says it lasts 3 times longer, the battery.
No, 2.5 millimeters is not as thick as the AirTag battery. The AirTag battery is more like 5 millimeters, I would say.
Well, they have a diagram there, which I put in the chat, which says the battery is A coin battery is 2.15 millimeter. The an AirTag itself is 8 millimeters. This is 2.5.
Huh.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the share here. So people with questions can.
Do we need to start a new recording?
Yeah, we'll stop the recording. Any DVMUG members watching this on YouTube, you know you can get the next recording of the Q&A on the BBS, which not seems anybody is doing that, but let's let you know. Okay, we'll stop.